Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot. So, we have had quite a ride here lately, and I've been going through all the notes and a couple days ago, you guys know I did the soulmate snapshot based on the fact that I had gotten just a whole bunch of questions about whether or not you should be the one reaching out to your person or if you want to wait for them to reach out to you. And I know some of you already had, and in some cases, yes, it is going to restart the play clock, and you're going to be kind of taking a little bit of a setback on the healing, but it's not really a permanent issue. It's something that you're also going to be able to work through. We looked yesterday at why they were having such a hard time dealing with the attraction energy that's coming from you. And today I want to attack a question that's a little, that sounds really aggressive. I want to tackle a question, still aggressive, that is really, it's one that somebody many of you have asked the question, like, what has happened lately? But one of you said, and it resonated with me, why has this gotten so much harder here recently? I've been living through it, I've been working through it. Why all of a sudden has it gotten so much harder? And so that's what we're going to look at today. Of course, it is a general reading, like always, so it may not resonate with everyone. Actually, it won't resonate with everybody, and it shouldn't. This is going to be it's a reading that's for this collective. So if you find that it's you, then you may want to take a look at some of the other videos that are out there, and you may want to subscribe. I say that at the beginning of every video, but it's true. They're all connected. And so if you're just coming in and saying, oh my goodness, this really seems like it fits for me, just know that it is connected with the rest of the videos on this channel. So there may be more messages out there for you. So we're going to start with just the energetic backdrop as usual, getting an idea of kind of what is this energy that you guys are swimming around in. How is it right now? What does that energy feel like, look like today? Well, we've got a King of Swords. This is that, it's an ability to take a step back. It's an ability to take a step back and look at the big picture, to build a strategy, to develop a little bit of, not necessarily developing a full strategy, but developing some thoughts that will kind of give you an idea of what direction to go. Only it's interesting because I feel like this is very much a shared energy between you and your person, but I think it's probably playing out very differently. You may feel like you've got a little bit of a path or a pattern or something that you know you want to follow, where your person, I think, is getting kind of closer at the beginning of that, trying to figure out what the overall strategy may look like. So just noticing that playing out a little bit differently. And also I see your person looking at some pretty central changes in their life, as opposed to you, who may be looking at more nuanced changes. A couple of you might be overcoming some larger changes, and by overcoming I mean getting to the end of. So I mean, it's moving to a new house, it's moving to a new job, things like that that have either happened recently or in the process of happening. I get that those are part of kind of the overall picture that you've already generated, and you're kind of still working your way down that path. Your person's at an earlier stage of developing on that path, but there's a sense of a door opening here with the Ace of Pentacles. That is good movement, good positive direction that you guys are headed in. We have a King of Wands here in reverse. So the only thing I don't love about this is it's that sense of wanting to really establish control and not have to, not earning the ability to control so much as just saying, okay, I want to be in control of this. And it's more a matter of almost, I want to just say convenience, because it's like doing it because it's the easiest way to handle it. A lot of times when you go into a situation, people will gladly take leadership from somebody because they don't necessarily want to do the leading. Here's a person that's maybe more used to being the one that comes in and takes the leadership position, or at least does so when. This could be either one of you. But this is a tendency to take that leadership position because it kind of happens to you anyway, or it happens to them anyway. But this is doing so without actually reading the room and being sure. There may already be somebody willing to provide that leadership in this situation. Okay, so we have a Ten of Cups. We saw this coming for you I guess it was in one of the last couple of readings. There's something here that's almost like a too good to be true sort of thing. It's a glimmer of hope that appears for you that you then have to decide how you want to handle it. But there's also a lot of emotion ready to flow. So I get the sense that this happens on some level with both of you, that you see something or you're basically presented with something that now you have to think about what the best way is to address that. There is flow of emotion associated with this, and I get the sense that you're learning the lesson of the Ten of Cups that you've been receiving for a little while here. But that Prince of Swords in reverse that I just flipped back over and put back into the deck, it is an honorable mention, and that one is much more associated with a fear that your person is feeling when they are also confronted with something that seems like it might be too good to be true, but that does require, it requires an emotional outlay. I think you're going to be able to do it. Now, we saw in previous readings also that you might be triggered at the requirement to provide that emotional outlay. I don't necessarily think that you can't do it, though. I think it's something that you can work through, and I feel like you do. So we've got a Six of Wands here. That's a really victorious kind of feeling, and sometimes with this, you do get an incredibly victorious feeling. Sometimes the Six of Wands is like, here's the victory at the end of a long battle, but this is like the victory at the end of all battles. This is, it reminds me of the Star card, and I am drawn especially to the Star on this card. There's something about the overall effort and the positivity towards that overall effort. It's like, there's a dream in here, and when you guys wake up from it, you're going to realize that this bond that you've been experiencing, you're going to be able to feel how real it is, and everything that has happened before, it feels like it's just going to kind of fall away in many ways. But in the meantime, you're both working toward what is kind of with this Ten of Pentacles, what's an incredibly positive place, and that's something where you're starting to see that happening. Even now, even that progress is starting to happen now, and it can happen entirely with you guys in separation for the rest of your lives, and it could still happen. The thing is, it's like you're learning lessons that are moving both of you in a direction that's going to be incredibly positive, even if really you're not there yet. And I see in this case in particular, your person is not there yet and is still very much trying to put the tools together to make it happen. So we've got the Emperor card, which refers to a balanced masculine energy, and this is something that I get the sense is reconciling and balancing within both of you, but there's still a separation here. So it could be a separation where, and it's just like we talk about, sometimes that separation is you don't have the opportunity to talk with this person, and other times that separation comes more in the form of they are sitting on the other side of this room, but there is no meaningful communication, and it feels like there's an emotional wall between you. Either way, so I'm kind of seeing that separation here, even though it's not necessarily usually the thing that stands out about the illustration on this card. For me, this time it is. So there's balance in both places, but not necessarily being appreciated by both of you. Okay, so this Two of Cups is kind of an honorable mention. I'm going to go ahead and hold on to it and leave it in the deck here. But the Two of Cups and the Ace of Swords, honestly, are kind of honorable mentions. What we really want to look at here is this Nine of Wands. So this Nine of Wands is, it's in reverse, and it has to do with all of the things where there has been resistance in the past, but as things are coming out, as the truths are coming out, as the bond is becoming evident, there's a lot less rebuttal, there's a lot less resistance that makes any sense in this. As it starts to coalesce into more of a picture, it becomes evident that there's something very special here, and that, you know, that bond is not to be denied, even if, like I said, the two of you don't come together in this lifetime. You're both, as a result of this situation, being driven towards something that is a greater success, and honestly just a beautiful place. Now, we know that some of you have some different energies that are coming toward you that could be incredibly positive, that aren't this person. It could be a really close friend, could be something that grows into something romantic, but we also know it's kind of slow. In this, though, there's going to be an opportunity, like we saw, for you to get triggered, and you have to figure out, all right, what do I want to do with this? But that's one of the lessons that this person has been teaching you. It's one of the things that's going to help you move toward this incredibly positive future, and move toward this physical realm happiness. So that's a really nice backdrop. But let's then understand with this all seems very positive for today. And we have seen some pretty intense backdrops here recently. So there's been a lot of change, there's been a lot of emotion, some of it's been very positive, and then sometimes we drop in and it's just not a great day. I mean, it really depends on the situation. But why all of a sudden did this get so much harder? So to recap, back in April or so, late April, we started to notice that people were coming back. A lot of people, a lot of soulmates coming back, establishing contact, having communication, but the communication wasn't going super well. Even though in the physical, in the 3D realm, in the 3D sense, a lot of these people ran and hid again, or at least retracted and made themselves very unavailable. Some of them made themselves completely unavailable. But even though we had that, the energy never quite left your side. So it's always been right there. And so we've been adjusting to the new playing field, adjusting to the proximity of the energy. And so here lately, in the last few days, it seems like things have gotten a lot more intense. And so that's kind of the question we're asking. As my person here, one of the viewers put it, why did this get so much harder all of a sudden? Right here in the last few days, like the desire to reach out has been a lot stronger. Just the edges of the pain have been a lot more real. It's interesting, and that's definitely what I've been hearing from you. So there is change. There's significant change. Oh, we have to keep this one. Hold on. Significant change, but there is not necessarily the emotional self-mastery to go along with it. So this is an uncomfortable thing because it's like you guys haven't grown into the change yet. So this is going to be something that's happening very uncomfortably on both ends. It's going to be mutually uncomfortable. So we've got a Knight of Wands here. All right, so here comes the attraction, moving toward the happiness, moving toward the sun, transformation that comes from that movement toward the sun, balance that's happening, which we see over here in the Emperor card. And it looks like it's really beautiful, moving in the right direction. We've got the Devil card here in the reverse, and we've got the Two of Pentacles in the reverse. And so the Two of Pentacles is not usually what I would consider to be a heavy hitter kind of card, but it's a pretty heavy one today. So the Devil card in reverse talks about things that have been trying to control you and your person, that have been, this is about the playing field changing and things that used to control you both no longer controlling you that anymore, in a sense. But this imbalance that is happening here makes you feel like everything goes dark. It's just it's confusing. It's difficult to say which direction is supposed to be the right one. There's a lot more proximity of the energy. There's a lot more intensity and fire happening in this energy, and there's a lot of change. And I think that's part of what makes it uncomfortable. So if I had to sum it up, I would say that the level has been increased. Like it's, if you were playing a game, and I know game is kind of a word that concerns people sometime. I don't really mean it like a mind game, but if you're playing a game, if you stick with me in my example, when you go up a level, you have to get used to it. You have to kind of get into that level of play, and you may be too good for the previous level. Like you're no longer going to be as challenged by the previous level, but you might not quite be up to par for the next level. And that's essentially what's happening here. Things have changed. The development has not yet occurred. So that Eight of Pentacles in reverse talks about the emotional self-mastery. That's the part where maybe you're not quite prepared for what's happening here. But the thing is, you both are. It's just very uncomfortable. There's a movement toward the happiness and the transformation that happens that frankly would not have been possible in the last level. So that's one of the things that I would put out there. The ability to hear the call of the Knight of Wands, the Devil card in the reverse. These are things that weren't in place. It was definitely hardcore Two of Pentacles in reverse before, but it's like you guys had gotten used to that. And so that's part of why it seems like, dropped a card. That seems like why it got so much harder all of a sudden, but it really didn't. It just moved it up to a new level, and you are although you're ready for it, you haven't got all your ducks in a row for this level yet. Everything hasn't quite gotten organized yet for you. You are not ready. This Empress, or you are ready, but you don't feel ready, I should say. This Empress in reverse is about development. It's about where you are in your process. It's about where you are in your building of what needs to happen. And so this Seven of Swords is incredibly important here because this represents the self-trust that you have built within this process, across this process. You can no longer be duped in certain ways because of the experiences that you've had here. It just will slide right off of you. Won't have the same impact. You have now dealt with something so significant that lots of smaller things would have a hard time getting through to you. And here you are moving into this new level, both of you, and feeling like it's just overwhelming. And that's normal. So I see nothing here that concerns me, but I also see a lot here that could be pretty uncomfortable. So moving up to that next level, but feeling like just feeling like you're not ready for it and feeling like you haven't really gotten oriented to this level. That's mostly what I see. Not anything too significant, although I guess I'd be curious how long that's going to take. And for everybody, it'll be different. But what is it going to take to get out of this place where it does feel so much more difficult. So I think we'll look at that when we get into the extended, because this is going to be, it really is shared energy for both of you, but you are the one that has the benefit of watching this video. Your other half is not also having the benefit of seeing this and saying, okay, here's why it's so hard. So it helps to move you through the process, but it's doing basically nothing to help them. It just feels very dark and uninviting, difficult path. That's more what I see than anything else. So we've got a Princess of Cups here. This is them being disinclined to move forward or make a lot of noise about anything. There's this feeling of the throat chakra being closed off, communication being closed off, not being able to send a communication, getting all the way to writing it. And like communication, could be for those people who have already communicated or those people that are right there. And you could have communication, like they remember a recent time when they have had some sort of interaction with you. But for whatever reason, it is something didn't resonate right. I think maybe we have, I think something didn't resonate right when a lot of the people that reached out, when they reached out, they now can get as far as writing a note, but not necessarily sending it. I'm kind of getting a strong sense of that as well. And it has something to do with not only that lack of self-mastery that really both of you are feeling, but they don't realize that you're feeling. Also, their interpretation of you. So they see you as really having everything all together. This is, when you think of the saying, like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Well, here's is that one, two? It's a bird in the hand for sure. And they feel like you have everything that you would require to move forward. Feel like you're a lot farther along with the emotional self-mastery and the emotional independence than they are. And that kind of makes them feel a little bit, rough. I guess I am super curious to know what has to happen to make this change. That is what we're going to look at when we get to the extended. Like, what do we have to do? What is between you guys and actually having some success here? And it feels like there's so much going on. We haven't looked at you yet. We're about to look at you and where your focus could be. But one of the things that I'm wondering is maybe when we get into this extended, if we kind of structure it that way, and maybe I'll grab another deck and we'll dig in and say, here's you, here's your person, here's the together path, to figure out how to make this a little bit less difficult, because I have a feeling that digging into what it's going to take for them is still going to be helpful for you. So I think that's what we're going to do. And let's see here. I think, do we have any more cards? We don't have more cards for this. I don't know until I pick up the deck and then it tells me no. All right, so we are going to look at you. We're going to look at where your focus ought to be given everything we see here on the table. That's typically how I like to ask that question, and this is part of how we're going to get into the answer. So we've got the Four of Wands that came out in the upright and the Page of Swords that came out here in the reverse. And so the Page of Swords in the reverse, again, about a lack of communication or fear of communication, afraid to even see how things are going to land. So this is not going to be about your person. There's some other situation. We've seen this in some of the other readings where there's somebody that you probably need to have a conversation with to make things right. Not necessarily not necessarily apology, not necessarily that sort of conversation, but there is a conversation that you feel like you want to have to make things right. But there's also a sense of moving towards stability. Having this conversation is going to further move you toward this stability, but mostly because it feels like you take a little bit of a load off when you communicate and have that conversation and make things right. It also feels like, and we've seen this before, there's something there that's maybe more important to you than it is to other people. There's something that you feel like you didn't do that you feel like you need to do. And maybe it's words that you need to say, but something that when you are able to complete it will feel whole. And this is interesting because I think we've seen a lot of kind of going back and almost 12-step apology type of energy coming off of the readings in some of these recently, and some of it's you and some of it is your person. But we've definitely seen that there's some kind of conversation or some kind of thing that you've wanted to make right. Be aware though, like I said, you may be feeling it more strongly than the other person. So if you get there and they say, I hadn't thought about that in a long while, it's really not something that drives, I don't feel a lot of lack from this. It's because they were able to get past it. And that's great. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that doesn't necessarily help you to get past it. You still have the self-forgiveness and whatever work you need to do. And in some cases, like I said, this is not an apology. This is just getting in there and making sure that the energy is good and balanced. Maybe you're giving something back that you borrowed. Maybe you're giving something to someone that you feel like needs to make it to them. Whatever it is, there's something that's holding you up in the process and not making it easy for you. Feels like it's not directed, or it's not like directed at you, but it's something that doesn't make it. You have to work past it. And there is a change happening for you. So you get your very own Tower card. And we've seen the Tower card, the Death card coming out for your person here recently. But with the Tower card coming out, this is actually something that happens for you. And I get the sense that it is something that happens that really helps to move you forward and in a reasonably positive way. Yeah, you got a new perspective coming. And actually, it's one that feels like it's already more or less being presented to you. You have something that you may be, so with that full moon energy that we had a little while back here, there was that tendency to not necessarily want to cut things out, but yes, you're being encouraged to remove certain things from your life, but you're also being encouraged to look at them carefully, that lesson of the 10 of Cups, and discern what the proper response is going to be, because it may be that you don't cut it out and instead you take a different tack. You, as we know, are going to have an opportunity to exercise that and decide if that's what exactly that you need to do. And I think that's a very positive thing, but may not be a comfortable thing. Maybe feels like a little bit of discomfort and conflict. You have the Four of Wands here, again, modifying the Four of Wands. And I think that's just amazing, because it's like you're heading toward something that is incredibly stable, incredibly positive, and it's like you do it just by being magnetized to it almost. But with this Three of Wands that you've got here, it's that feeling of things already having been set into motion. So you're already, the reason that this conversation maybe that you need to have up here, this interaction, the reason that that's coming up for you is because it's coming out because, and this is the Justice card in reverse, feeling like something's not quite right. It's coming out because of the development that you've done and the things that you've already set into motion. Because of this Three of Wands that will graduate to a more stable Four of Wands, you are going to, that's what causes you to say, hey, here's something that I need to address. Here's something that I need to go back and fix, even though you may even be aware, and one of the reasons you haven't addressed it, you may even be aware that the reason that you haven't, addressed this situation is because it was a bigger deal to you than it was to them. As far as something where you feel like maybe you didn't do something quite right somewhere, or you didn't feel like you handled something the way that you wanted to. So I think we're going to go ahead and go into the extended, and the extended, the link will be down below. But remember, we're going to go deeper into this. It is specifically, why did this get so much harder all of a sudden? So when we get in there, I'm going to grab a different deck, and we're going to get in a little bit closer individually, you and your person. And I feel like you need to see both, and then combined, what has to happen? What does that bridge look like? So it's like we're going to ask the bridge question for all three, for you, your person, and the union of you and your person, to find out a little bit more of how do you get out from the discomfort and the heaviness of this energy, that just things that got so much harder all of a sudden. And I'm still curious to know what happened in that last communication that has them buzzing. So yeah, we'll jump into the extended here, and let's see what it has to show for us. Glad to see you there, and if not, then I will see you in tomorrow's reading.